Hi everybody. Welcome to week 12 of our class. Sorry that we couldn't Zoom today. Lots of chaos happening here that prevented that from happening. But I did want to post a short video to go over some of um, the assignments upcoming and our next essay, which is the proposal essay. So you should be able to see here, this is our Canvas page, this is week 12. Um, this week is fairly short, so this week what we have is a description of the third essay, the type of essay that we're writing, which is a proposal, a description of the assignment, and then an assignment check-in quiz. You might have also noticed that there, since this is Monday, the reflection memo deadline has been extended till today if you want to go ahead and do that. Anyway, so let's click on week 12 overview. So you can see there's a short description here on the overview of what proposals are. You might have written a proposal in 1301, but if you haven't, essentially a proposal is a type of essay where you put forth an idea for consideration. So the type of proposal that we're writing is one that addresses a problem that needs to be fixed in some way, shape, or form. And what you're doing is you're addressing that problem and you are putting forth an idea or a set of ideas to solve that problem. It could solve the problem as a whole, or it could address an individual component of the problem. Because proposals are you putting forth an idea for consideration, it's really important to take audience into consideration. So the example on the welcome page is, the most kind of well-known type of proposal, which is a marriage proposal. Will you marry me? Obviously, if you're asking someone to marry me, the goal is to get that person to say yes, right? Hopefully you have some idea that they're going to say yes beforehand, but just in case you don't. You still want them to say yes, right? So we have to focus on the audience. If I'm putting forth a proposal to a business, right? Say I want a business to fund my project or choose me to do a project. I have to consider the business's needs. If I am putting forth a proposal that needs to be voted on, I need to think about the voters and how to make my proposal seem important and worth the voters' time, right? So it really, kind of like a lot of our other genres, really depends on audience, right? So if we go to the next page, we've got some kind of notes here, just kind of defining what proposals are and a little bit about thesis statements. But just to kind of give you an idea, when we make a proposal or when we write proposals, a large part of what we're doing is going to be defining our problem. And what that means is we're going to have to really detail why the problem that we're writing about is a problem. Some of it may seem like really common sense, but not all problems are common sense, right? They may seem problematic to you as somebody who's noticed it or experienced it, but if someone hasn't noticed it or hasn't experienced it, the problem may not seem as big to those people, right? So you have to kind of define the problem, and the way you do that maybe is by using data and evidence to kind of show your audiences the scope of the problem, right? You want them to feel like, in reading your essay, that this is something that we do actually need to address sooner rather than later. Another element is making a strong claim that addresses the problem or need. So one of the things it says is it focuses on the future. And that's kind of a little bit vague in wording, but essentially what we mean by that is your solution shouldn't be something that can be done right now, because if it can be done right now, you don't need to write about it, right? So we're not talking about putting band-aids on problems. We're thinking about, well, how do we actually address this large-scale problem in a large-scale way that actually makes a difference? Show why your proposal will fix the problem or address a need. And this is the tricky part, right? Because this is you kind of talking about why the solution you're putting forth is a good one. So there are multiple ways to solve a single problem. Some topics are really controversial, or some solutions are controversial. So the example that I put on this page, like if we're addressing the teen pregnancy rates, well, some people say, okay, abstinence only sex ed, that's what we need to be doing. And other people say we need access to birth control. That the camp that says we need abstinence only sex education may actually believe that discussing or creating access to birth control only incentivizes teen sex, right? And therefore we need to only preach abstinence only. We're the group that says we need access to birth control, thinks that abstinence only is just avoiding the inevitability that teenagers will have sex, right? So hopefully you kind of see what I'm saying. So the solution that you're putting forth, right? Teen pregnancy is the problem in this example, right? These are two types of solutions. You have to explain why your solution is the best one. Do you have data for it, right? Where can you find evidence? What is the evidence that backs it up? And the last one that it notes is demonstrating that your proposal is feasible. And feasibility just means like doable. So you want to make sure that you're not proposing something sort of like overly complex that's just like a pipe dream. So like previously I had a student who's like, we need more funding for higher education, so we should just take all the money out of the defense budget. The national defense budget. Well, it's not the way that works, right? Like it's not just like a bank account where you can reach in and grab piles of money. At the same time, you don't want to be oversimplistic. So, okay, we have a traffic problem in San Antonio. Build more highways. Like, yes, we do need more highways, but it's in order for a highway to be built, we need funding. We need, there's a lot of different steps to get a highway to be built other than just doing it, right? So when we start actually thinking about writing this essay, we need to kind of identify some basic components. So the first one is, who do we think needs to solve the problem that we see as being the problem? Are you saying it's voters, politicians, and lawmakers? Are you saying it's individual citizens and individual citizens' actions? What are you suggesting needs to be done, right? So what is your solution? And of course, the thing that I've mentioned before is why, right? Why does it need addressing? So, depending on your topic, you have to, it may be like really apparent to people, it may be not very apparent to people, but regardless, you have to convince your reader that this indeed is a problem that needs addressing now. So if we take a look at the proposal essay assignment description, I'm not kind of going to go over this in like every single tiny detail because it's here for you to read. And a lot of this is sort of reiterated from the previous notes. But one thing I do want to point out is all the topics that I've provided you are topics that are kind of specific to San Antonio or South Texas. So your audience for this essay is therefore a local community audience. For the sake of ease, because we don't have easy access to the library or, face-to-face interaction, I'm giving you specific topics to choose from. So these topics listed here in bullet points are the topics that you will choose from. So you will choose one of these. The topics that say or, you're going to choose one kind of component. So if we look at the topics you have, the need for public or mass transportation in San Antonio, stray animals in San Antonio or animal abuse in San Antonio, the diabetes epic in San Antonio, because San Antonio has a very high rate of type 2 diabetes, food deserts in San Antonio, so these are like areas that don't have access to fresh foods, grocery stores, maybe have a lot of fast food restaurants instead. Affordable housing crisis or the issue of gentrification in San Antonio. So gentrification is that process where a lot of times like it's lower income neighborhoods become revitalized, which is a good thing, but then sometimes the citizens who've been living there end up getting kind of priced out or taxed out. Um, Homelessness in San Antonio, the need for childcare on the Northwest Vista campus. So this is kind of a little bit more specific one to our campus, but we are one of the Alamo colleges that does not have a daycare facility, where I believe St. Philip's and I think San Antonio College both do. So would we better serve our student population if we did? The issue of child abuse in San Antonio or domestic abuse. So none of these are really happy topics. And that's obviously because it's you trying to kind of focus on problems that need to be addressed. So, these are the topics, right? So obviously you have time to think about it. The rough draft is not due immediately. But it's good to start kind of like perusing this and thinking about what you might want to write about. The one thing that I do want to note, just because I want to keep this video short, so yeah, the rough draft is not due till May 7th. So again, we do have some time. But the sooner you're getting started, the better. The one thing that I do want to note though is that the final draft due date is really inflexible for this essay. And that's because I'm trying to give you the maximum amount of time by making the essay due at the end of finals week. But that obviously also means that your grades are due to the system only a couple days later. So if you do not submit your essay by May 14th, I may not be able to grade it and get your grade in submitted at a time. So this is the one exception where your previous essays had that sort of window with point deductions. So unfortunately, because I'm trying to give everybody extra time, there is no extra window here. So May 14th is a sort of a very, very hard deadline. So please keep that in mind. But anyway, so hopefully this just gives you a general idea of sort of what's to come. For the proposal essay. Next week we'll go a little bit more in depth, talk about organization. There'll be some sample essays posted on the Canvas page as well, and hopefully we will be Zooming with one another again. So hopefully that will everything will work out. And then otherwise, if you have any questions in the meantime, please go ahead and email me.